Books are made of chapters, and chapters are made up of scenes. Each chapter is a mini-book with a common theme. This is true regardless of the kind of book. A book on Ford F-250s might have a chapter that focuses on the transmission and another on the electrical system. Even in fiction, there is a focus on a particular event. One chapter of a Harry Potter book focused on the Yule Ball, for example. In each chapter, there were a series of related scenes that told the linear tale that ended in the climax of that chapter. In a linear story, you do not jump around in the timeline and your scenes follow a sequential pattern, but you do not include every single second of your character's life. You need transitions for the bits that you skip. Occasionally, you use a scene transition to introduce a character or another thread of the story. Note, I will use examples from my books to avoid a copyright issue. These are some common techniques for using slide transitions. First, we have arrive late, leave early. Second, leave us gasping with a cliffhanger. Third, establish the speaker as quickly as possible. Fourth, establish where they are. Fifth, has time passed? Sixth, change of mood. Mix these up and scatter them through your book's chapters. Arrive late, leave early. This is a popular adage for writing. Your transitions will allow you to plunge the reader into the middle of the action. For example, he didn't move. The telltale click of the gun gave him all the instruction he needed. Leave us gasping with a cliffhanger. The last line of the previous scene should set up the first line of the next scene. Pay attention to how you end your scenes. It will help propel your next scene forward. If you are jumping between storylines, go back to the last scene of the previous storyline to help you with your transition. For example, the Tibetan Girl Chapter 1 from the last two scenes' first scene is Jack Morgan in a bar discussing his destiny with his brother-in-law. My Buddhist friends would call that karma, Jack. Remember your loyalties. I expect to see you in Sunday services this week. I have a special sermon on the sanctity of our wedding vows planned. Karma, that's what it is, what it's all about, Jordan. Karma. In the next scene, a child named Karma and her mother are enduring their first night in a rancid prison cell packed with other female prisoners. Karma, I'm so sorry that you are here with us. I should have left you in the temple with Amanima. The small, cold, crowded cell with gray, filthy walls had an open bucket in the corner that filled it with a horrific stench. Stroking the child's thick black hair, she wrapped her arms around the shivering, terrified, hungry young girl as she looked out the small cracked window at the stars above. The Chinese can't keep you here, so they will probably separate us in the morning. I won't leave you, Mother. I won't. Is it karma that this man from Texas and this 10-year-old Tibetan girl will ever find each other? Two stories that will meld into one somewhere in the future are foretold in this scene transition. Establish the speaker as quickly as possible. When we start a new scene, we need to know who the viewpoint character is. Their name usually works, but in first person this will need extra attention. Establish where they are. If the setting has changed, let the reader know. Sensory details are a great way to show this, but a street name will work just as well. Keep it simple and natural. Has time passed? The first few lines of a scene should give an indication of this. For example, in Droids the chapter 7 p.m., every scene for every character starts at 7 p.m. It's 7, Dr. Marcos and Billy will be here soon, Barney boy. It had been a hard 3 days and felt was good to be home. Tomorrow he would be going to Paris to continue the manhunt. Star, what's for Din Din? Home for a couple of hours, Frank just had enough time to catch up on the news. The new school was a place of wonder for a kid who didn't like school. Margarita and Star had shared parenting duties, and even his new boss had stopped by to explain what he was doing to a worried 13-year-old. Frank smiled for the first time in memory. Here he was, a detective again, doing what he was always meant to do for people who stood behind him. The fight in Margarita's diner had left him bruised, and if it hadn't been for Marshall McCann, probably would have been his last. Barney had friends here. It was a crime-free community with exceptional services and technology. Sipping his beer as he sat back, he marveled how the glass itself seemed to keep the beer at the perfect temperature. In the next scene, we have It's 7. How do you think it's going with Frank Murphy and the CIA spook? Tom Davis enjoyed the smell of Fang's meatloaf, mashers, and gravy. Sitting back relaxing, light classical music in the background, he looked over to Fang in her apron efficiently transferring green beans into a serving plate. All the times he had worked with her, never had it occurred to him that Fang the assassin would so enjoy being Fang the homemaker. Tony was right. The guy knows what he's doing. He thinks his way through problems. In the next scene, we have a lonely woman on the make. It's 7 and yet another lonely night on the make. Vilma looked around at the unusually thin crowd in Flanagan's pub. The automated tap system would of course monitor her intake of alcohol, the beta droid bartender would monitor her blood alcohol level to prevent her from getting too drunk, and the air slids would of course keep her safe on the highways. She needed to get drunk, rip-snorting drunk, and the nanny ultra-safe system conspired to make sure that there were limits to her relief. Another Becherovka, straight. This sets up for the scene with the main character. Tony gazed at Margarita in her red evening gown, her blonde hair done perfectly with a tiara fit for a queen. He wondered what technical marvel the jewelry possessed. She seemed to glide across the walkway from the air sled that Jack had sent to keep him from escaping the evening with the eggheads and geeks. Very, very nice, Margarita. Maybe we can stop off at the office to check on the world situation. I've already done that. Jack asked that we go straight there and not give you a world crisis to escape to. It won't be that bad, Tony. It's 7 now, so we are a bit late. And they have those little sausage thingies that you like. I made sure of that. In every case, the action takes place in a different place at the same time established in the scene transition. Change of mood. The mood or tone of a scene can change, and transitions are good for establishing that. You probably can't use all of these all the time, but it is essential that you care for your scene transitions at least some of the time. In all cases when the time, place, characters change, this must be made obvious. Scene transitions. Be careful how you transition from one scene to another. It adds continuity to your chapter. In summary, uses of scene transitions include: provide descriptions, to break tension, to slow the pace, to skip unimportant events or time periods, to create or switch mood or tone, to advance the time, to change location, to change viewpoint character.